these live streams seem to perform after the fact. It's a lovely thing about YouTube. It's one thing if you are getting into YouTube to really consider doing. I think live streaming. This is the most I've ever done it before. Having since starting this business 3 years ago, and it's a huge amount of fun. It's very different to what you expect it to be in terms of the work you have to put into it and what happens when you actually start and everything goes live and you have questions coming in. It really keeps you on your toes, and it's a very different way of making videos compared to pre-recorded edited videos that most of us make. So but I do recommend doing it because there's nothing like the audience interaction. Two pieces of housekeeping as always. The first one is if you haven't joined the free Discord server yet, please go and check it out. The link is below. I'm building a community of people who want to get involved in content creation, people who are already involved in content creation, and anyone basically who just has a passing interest in this industry. And if you're watching this video, either live now or in the future, you must have an interest in it. And if that's the case, please go and check it out. You don't have to hang around. It's completely free, but if you do check it out and you like it, I think you'll probably find that you stay because there's some lovely people on there. Okay, that's the first thing. The other thing is the Creator Academy, which is kicking off at the end of January. The registrations for that are now open. Again, there's a link down below if you want to go and check it out, check out the pricing, check out the modules that are going to be taking place. This is a course put on by myself. So every week you'll be getting a new lesson delivered into your inbox. Lesson, that's terrible. A new module. I never know what to call them because I'm not a teacher. I don't want to make this sound like it's going to be going back to school because trust me, it's not. But you will be learning stuff. And every week you'll get a new module from me, let's call it that, which is me revealing a lot of stuff about this business and how I run it. But equally, every month we'll have a live Q&A like this, but behind closed doors in terms of over Zoom, where you can ask me anything you like about the module that you've been working on, or just your progress through the academy. We think there's a lot of value in this, and I'm very excited to get started with it at the end of January. And yeah, check out the link below. I'll keep this really simple. Basically, if you want to do what I do, be it full time or part time, side hustle as they call it, or if you just want to give it a go, if you're thinking that in 2024 this is going to be your year where you finally get that YouTube channel off the ground, or that podcast started up, or perhaps get your TikTok account up and running, or the blog that you've been messing around with for a few years, but you want to make something serious of it, then this is the academy to join, because I am sharing everything about this business, everything from content creation to idea generation, working with brands, working with sponsors, the financial side of it, dealing with the community aspects, everything. So it's it's going to be a good thing. I can't wait to get started. Today, as always, I'm going to do a bit of a thing about a topic, which I'll come on to in a second, and then we'll have your questions. So I did this thing where I do not look at the chat window while I'm talking now, because I don't want to be distracted, because I know someone will say something where I think, I need to jump on that and answer the question or whatever. So what I like to do is do my bit and then hand over to you guys and get your questions. But please just start filling that chat section with questions. Go for it. Anything that comes to mind while I'm talking about this thing in a moment, or anything that you've wanted to ask me for a little while, stick it in there. It's Friday. We can have a bit of a laugh. If you want to ask me what my favorite type of pizza is, go for it. But equally, if you've got a burning question about content creation or running your own business like this, stick those questions into the chat section, please. 2 or 3 weeks ago, I promised that I'd talk about AI, and it never happened because other things came up that I wanted to talk about, and I just kept pushing AI to the back of the pile. Firstly, that's not because I don't want to talk about it. I absolutely do want to talk about it. So don't think that it's not something that is on my radar or that I don't use, because those two things, it's definitely the opposite. But yeah, things got in the way, basically. So earlier this week, I thought, let's make sure AI is the topic for Friday, because I know a lot of you have got questions about this. So immediately, if you've got questions about AI, stick them in the chat, please. What I want to do, though, is talk a little bit about how I use AI in this business, why I'm not afraid of it, and equally, and something that is absolutely fascinates me, is what I would have done in my previous business if that business had been around during this explosion of AI technology. Because, well, I'll explain why in a bit. But Part of the reason I decided to really go for it this week with this is because I was listening to a podcast by Ali Abdaal. If you've never heard of Ali before, he's a very popular YouTuber. He's very much in the kind of productivity space, although his channel has kind of turned into this uh, partly productivity advice, but also helping people become YouTubers and become content creators. He has his own academy that he runs for this, although it's changed slightly recently. But he also has a podcast called the Deep Dive Podcast. Definitely worth checking out. He has some very good guests on there. And the one that I listened to most recently, which I think is the most recent episode at the time of filming this, was with a guy called Kenneth. I will definitely get this surname wrong. Kenneth Kukia. Kukia, something like that. Anyway, Kenneth, we'll just call him Ken. He won't be watching this. He doesn't care. But we'll refer to him as Ken from here on. Ken is, as I say, he's with The Economist, and he's all about big data and machine learning and AI. Very, very clever bloke. Clearly knows his onions when it comes to AI. And he was kind of responding to these questions that Ali had, specifically about AI, really, and how that relates to big data and how it's affecting life and work as we know it now, and what's going to happen in the future. But what really interested me was the way that Ken um, kind of referred to AI, and in particular tools like ChatGPT. And his point was that if you know anything about AI, anyone who works in big data and machine learning, all that stuff, they refer to AI as an inference. I've got to get that word right, and equally a companion. So they don't see AI as being something that immediately replaces a human being, because technically it can't, because AI doesn't know anything. ChatGPT knows nothing. All it has to work from, I say all, it's quite a lot, but all it has to work from is this great big bank of data that has been harvested. And as we know, if you use ChatGPT, right at the bottom it says ChatGPT, I think it says something like can get things wrong, something like that. It's very open about the fact that what the stuff that it spits out does need fact checking, particularly if you're working with facts and you're doing something where you need to be 100% factually correct. You cannot rely on AI to give you the perfect answer, which is why Ken says that for the time being, as it stands now, AI is a tool as a companion. It's this thing that you can kind of call on to help you do things, to make you more efficient, make you more productive, speed things up, cut out processes and things that you do, or things that people do within your team that take far too long for humans to do, that we can lean on AI to do better and quicker. That's the way he looks at it. And also he came out with this quote, which I quite liked, which is that we need to be the controller of AI rather than being controlled by AI. Hence my dreadful thumbnail for this live stream. That's a really, really bad bit of masking and stuff. I'm sorry, Arnie in particular, but you probably know what I'm referring to. So, but Ken's point is that we just need to keep on top of the control of AI, which is why the governments and lots of big kind of industry bodies are working closely with one another at the moment to slow down the pace of development with AI, which I think is the first time this has ever happened with tech. We've never, as far as I'm aware, there's not been anything else in the past where everyone's gone, whoa, hang on a minute, slow down. Let's keep just put the brakes on for a minute. But they're doing that because we do need to retain control over AI. Because if we lose that control and we get controlled by AI, that's where bad things happen. So I loved the way Ken dealt with this conversation. Like I say, if you just Google it, just have a look for Deep Dive by Ali Abdaal, you'll find this conversation with Kenneth, and it's definitely worth listening to. But I've never really talked about AI on this channel. I've definitely never talked about it on Mark Ellis Reviews. The only thing I have talked about it with it on this channel is when I did a little overview of um, a software product called Gling, which is a AI video editor, where you basically chuck a bunch of A-roll filming. So you shoot yourself. Always sounds weird. You film yourself talking to camera for 20 minutes, and normally the process after that would be to cut out all of the useless bits and the mistakes and the bits that are just boring yourself. You go through it, do it manually. I still do this for Mark Ellis Reviews. It's a manual process for me at the moment. But what Gling AI does is it takes that 20-minute piece of footage and it cuts out for you, does it all automatically. It cuts out all the silences, all the repeated takes, and it just leaves in what it believes to be the best takes, and you can change the ones it picks and put stuff back in that it's taken out. But essentially, it saves a boatload of time. I've used it quite a bit in Solo Club for some Solo Club videos. I don't do that anymore because I don't edit the Solo Club videos. They go to my team who edit them. But when I was doing those videos, it was a massive time saver. And equally, I have some creator friends who use Kling all the time, and they can't get over how much time it saves. So that's the only thing really that I've covered on this channel about AI. But what I've never done is talk about how else we use it and why I'm not scared of it really. And I'm genuinely not scared of it. I'm cautious of it. And I've got a very keen eye on it to see what happens, how it develops, and how that might impact myself as a business owner in this industry. But I'm not afraid of it because worse things have happened in life. And equally, this sort of stuff I see as an opportunity. Partly because it's going nowhere. If you're afraid of something to the point where you just don't want to, pay attention to it and pretend it's not there, it's going to come and get you at some point because AI is not stopping. So that's the way that I always look at it. I've noted down a few of the ways that we use it in this business, and I suppose let's just go through them. That'd be the quickest thing. Let me have some water. At the moment, I'm trying to drink a minimum of 2 liters of water a day because I've got this habit tracking app thing, and I know I need to drink more water. This is totally off topic, but I'm interested in if anyone else does this. But it's a lot of water. That's a litre bottle here, and getting through 2 of them. I think I'm supposed to drink 3 litres a day. As a bloke, I think it's 3 litres or something. So much liquid. Not doing very well with it, to be honest. But anyway, way off topic, as always. If you're new to this, by the way, this does happen quite a lot. Anyway, back to how we use AI in Mark Ellis Media. So the first thing is that we use it for drafting some of the articles on markellisreviews.com. So you may remember, if you're a regular viewer, that about over a month ago now, we were hit by the Google Helpful Content Update, which was this massive update to the Google algorithm, excuse me, that basically hit a lot of niche websites, including markellisreviews.com, and pretty much destroyed the rankings for a period of time. They are starting to creep up a little bit now because we've done a bit of work on the site and on the content strategy. And one of the things we've done is introduce some AI content. So there's broadly speaking 3 types of content that go onto markellisreviews.com. Originally, it was just me. I was the only person that published to that website. But now we have me, so it's still myself writing those pieces. Those aren't done by AI. There's no AI. In fact, the only thing that I do with AI, I'll come on to in a moment. But in terms of the actual blog post itself, that's all me. It's completely written by me. Then we have posts written by someone else, and normally that is Max. Max is rapidly becoming the website manager for markellisreviews.com. Once again, he writes his pieces pretty much himself. He uses a little bit of AI for outlining and stuff, but generally speaking, it's him because he's a very good writer. And then we have this third bucket, which is basically AI generated content. Now, this doesn't mean we go into ChatGPT and type, write me a 1,000-word blog post on the latest iPad Pro. That's not what we do. What we do, what Max does, he uses his SEO skills to find the best topics to write about and to cover, and then uses AI, typically ChatGPT to begin with, to work out a rough outline for that blog post. And then we use a tool which I need to remind myself of called Write Sonic, I think it is. Write Sonic, which again is very, very much worth looking at. Not affiliated with it, not sponsored. It's just a tool that Max found and we reviewed, and it made sense to use. So it's called Write Sonic, and this basically creates these blog posts for you. But again, we don't just take that blog post and chuck it into WordPress and publish it. Max spends time going through it, making sure the tone of voice is right. They're written for him, so that they don't go under my name. They go under Max's authorship on the website. But he does spend some time editing it and making sure it's all okay. But he doesn't rewrite massive sections of these blog posts because, generally speaking, tools like Write Sonic do a very good job of creating unique, relevant, and perfectly serviceable content for this purpose. And this purpose is to rank. It's to rank for articles, typically help-based articles. So, how to pick the right Apple Pencil or whatever it might be. Things where it's best that I don't spend time doing that sort of stuff. My skill and the best way I can serve that website is by giving my opinion and reviews of things. That's where I do that, and similar to what Max does. But all the other stuff, all the helpful content in terms of guides and how tos, all that sort of stuff. We can use AI for that. There's nothing wrong with that. A lot of people do this these days, and it gets that content out of the door. And as I say, as a result of this, and a few tweaks we've made technically to the site via SEO setup, we are starting to see a bit of an upturn in the in fact, on certain days, massive spikes in traffic. But there is gradually we're seeing a bit of an increase in traffic, which is fantastic. So that's the first thing we do with AI. The second thing relates to something I kind of alluded to a moment ago, which is title idea generation. Is that the best way of doing it? Basically, brainstorming titles for both blog posts, and YouTube videos. Um, YouTube videos in particular, it's a dark art. It's really it's an expertise that I've never quite fully mastered. I don't think anyone masters this really, because when you write a title for YouTube, you're second guessing YouTube basically. You're second guessing two things: the YouTube algorithm and your audience. So you're writing a title that you hope the algorithm is going to like, and equally you hope that the audience the algorithm puts it in front of is going to react to and click on. It's very, very difficult, and it's the one part of the publishing process that I don't fear it, but I worry about it. It's the one thing that, the video's been shot, edited, uploaded to YouTube, the thumbnail's been done, everything's done, the description, everything. I'm happy with everything. I'm always second guessing myself about that title. I'm never sure if it's right, if it's strong enough, if it's too clickbaity, or if it strikes that really important balance between clickbait and informative, and all that stuff. Sometimes I'm relatively happy enough to let them go. Quite often though, I'm not, and I have to turn to ChatGPT and say, "Look, this is what the video is about. This is the audience. This is the kind of, this is the main narrative about the video. Give me 10 titles. Give me 10 brilliant titles for this YouTube video," and it spits them out within seconds, obviously. And always there's something in there that gives me inspiration. I very rarely take one of the titles exactly as they are, because they're never quite right for me. But there's something in there that I hadn't thought of. There's a combination of 3 or 4 words that immediately jumps off that page, and that is where AI is so handy, because it's immediately it saved me it saved me the worry about the title, and secondly, it saved me so much time researching it myself and sitting there thinking and brainstorming and probably getting nowhere. Immediately you have this stuff, this inspiration. So again, that comes back to it being a companion. It's not doing the job for me. It's giving me inspiration, which I can then turn into my own thing, and away we go. So that's the other way we use AI. The next one is it's scripting, but it's not scripting for the long form video. So at the moment, we're working on a strategy where we're putting out more dedicated short form content. So previously, for Mark Ellis Reviews and Solo Club, the short form stuff we created for YouTube Shorts, TikTok, and Instagram was basically chopped up bits of longer videos, which there's merit in doing that. We've had some very big wins in terms of views and stuff for that. And, I grew quite a big audience on TikTok just by doing that. But equally, we know that that isn't the best way to do this. It's certainly not the best way to get the most views on YouTube Shorts, and it's definitely not the way to build an audience on Instagram. And it's those two platforms which are massively important to me. So we've had taken this decision to make what we're calling dedicated shorts. So they are shot and edited purely for short form. They're not taken from a longer form video. They're shot in vertical format. Um, the challenge with those videos is that if they have narration, it has to be really, really short, sharp, and obviously short. But it has to be sharp, to the point, and just brilliant. Writing that kind of stuff can take quite a while, and I don't always have time for it. But what I do have normally is a bunch of bullet points of things that I want to cover in that short. The recent stuff we've been putting out about the Porsche Cayenne is a great example of this, where Porsche gave me loads and loads of details about the car. So we've got all these bullet points about, for instance, the headlight system, and turning that into a script for a minute long, 30-second long, 90-second long short form video is a big job. So what I do instead is stick it in, basically say to ChatGPT, give me a YouTube short script from these bullet points. And within seconds, it gives me something. 9 times out of 10, I have to do a bit of editing, so it's never quite in my style of, the way that I'd say it myself. So I do have to change the tone a little bit to match what I would say, and there's normally stuff in there that's either not quite right or just doesn't sit right, sounds a bit salesy and all that sort of stuff. So I take all that stuff out, edit it until I'm happy with it, but again, that saves me so much time. Basically, then I can just read from that script and job done. So scripting, it does play a big role. The other thing it does is outlining. So we use ChatGPT, or I use ChatGPT for outlining solo club videos. So, for instance, I think last week I published, or sorry, I don't do a lot of this stuff now, but we published a video on this channel on Solo Club about why content creators should have newsletters. If you haven't watched that yet, go and check it out and let me know what you think, by the way, because these videos are slightly different. They're vlog style, and I'd love to get your feedback on what they're like. But anyway, so I've kind of tasked myself with making a video about newsletters. Now, I'm basically repeating stuff that's out there. I'm not the first content creator to make a video that explains why content creators should have newsletters. It's been done a million times. So why sit there for a half an hour, whatever, writing out an outline for that video? It doesn't make any sense at all when I can go onto ChatGPT and type, give me an outline for a YouTube video about the 5 reasons that content creators should have a newsletter. Hit enter, bang, there's your outline. Again, I do tweak it a little bit, but because the way that I tend to film most of my videos is riffing off bullet points, I don't need to flesh out an entire script. I can just take what it's given me with the headings and just tweak things a little bit, and it's done. That does save me probably nearly an hour quite often in terms of messing around doing it myself and doing the research and all that stuff. So outlining, massive part of it. The other thing that we do, which we will be doing, not quite yet, but we're getting there, is I might as well announce it on here. So 8 or 16, which is the podcast I've been doing with Rob for 3 years now, and has always been audio only. It's only ever gone through the podcast network, and is going to have its own YouTube channel. So it will be a proper video with me and Rob talking and all the rest of it. And now, because of that, that will need some editing, because we'll need some angle switching between when I'm talking to when Rob's talking, etc. Now, we could do that manually. We could have someone edit that and do the switching throughout that. But for an hour-long episode, that can take quite a while. And for anyone who knows Adobe Premiere, I don't, but I do know what it's capable of. You may know, you probably definitely know that there's some AI stuff built into it where you can basically click a button and it will do that camera switching for you. So it will go through the entire hour-long podcast episode and stick in the camera changes based on who's talking at the time. Brilliant. That's saved hours of time in terms of editing. So that although we're not doing that yet, that is going to happen within the next few weeks, basically, as we go forward with the 8 or 16 YouTube channel. So that's how we use AI now in this business, and I'm fairly sure it's going to continue. I don't think, well, when I say continue, I think our reliance on it will continue and probably increase as well. The important thing to say with all of this as well is that I've not had to let anyone go because of this. So, my general manager, my podcast editor, short form editor, none of them have lost their position lost their position within Mark Ellis Media. That's the best way of putting it. Because of AI, they've all basically benefited from it, because it's reduced the amount of fairly boring, mundane work they have to put into things, and means they can just work on other stuff, create more content, do more stuff for me. It's worked really well so far. So touch wood, it will carry on working. So I need to get through this litre of water. So that's how we use it now. Before I kind of hand over to questions from you guys, the other thing that really fascinates me is how if I could go back 5 years to the role that I had back then, which was when basically I was running a business which it was just myself pretty much. I was creating content for other businesses. So it was written content, it was video content, audio content. It's what I do now basically, but it was doing it for other businesses. And the written stuff took up a massive part of that for quite a long time. And I always think, how would I have reacted if ChatGPT, for argument's sake, had appeared back then? Because it would have changed my business massively. And I think, again, this is all, it's nice with hindsight, isn't it? With a bit more knowledge and all the rest of it. But I think this is what I would have done. I think, bearing in mind that I was writing a lot of blog posts for people, this tool suddenly comes along where you can type a few uh, pointers into a chat window, and it gives you a perfectly written, unique blog post. If that came along, the first thing I would do, 100%, is panic. I think all of us do this. I'd like to think most human beings do this. Something big happens, something big goes wrong, or some massive thing threatens your livelihood. It's natural to panic and have a little cry and think, this is it. I'm going to lose all my clients. I'm going to have to go back to normal work. I'm going to have to do what. Yeah, I would 100% react like that initially. But what I've kind of discovered about myself over the years is that I have that moment of panic, and then I immediately go into problem solving mode. So I think, okay, there's nothing I can do about this. It's happened. I have no control over that external factor. How can I make something out of this? How can I ensure that I don't lose all those clients? And I think what I would have done back then is that I would have embraced ChatGPT and built it into my process. And the key thing with this, rather than thinking I'm going to lose my clients because they can just get ChatGPT to do my work for them, I'd hope anyway that I would have realized that they'd still have to do that themselves. They'd still have to write those prompts, and equally, they may not know what to put in there. If they're not writers, they probably haven't got the time for it anyway. But if they're not familiar with how these blog posts should be written and all this sort of stuff, or what to look out for when you ask ChatGPT to do something, are they really going to be bothered to do that? Probably not. So in which case, they still need me. There's still a requirement. And then I hope I would probably have thought, what I can do here is explain that they'll still have me here. They'll pay me the same, but they'll get more content out of me because suddenly I've got this tool that enables me to create more content faster, more efficiently, and in return, they get more website visits, more referrals, more leads, more sales, etc. And they don't have to pay me anything more. And thinking back to the clients that I had at that point, I'm fairly sure most of them would have said, yes, please. We'll leave you to it. Get on with it. So it would have been that brief moment of panic and then the kind of rearranging of my thoughts and getting a bit realistic about it and putting things in perspective and thinking, no, let's make AI work for me and for my clients. So yeah, I think the future is bright, providing everyone does treat it with kid gloves to a degree, and we do get these controls in place for it. I think AI is we're there now. It's already running things, and I think if you run away from it, I think you're running in the wrong direction. I still occasionally see people talking about this, either in comment sections and things where they'll say, "Oh, it still can't replace my human creativity." Well, it can't, but it's equally not going anywhere. And some people will think it can replace your creativity. And if you seem to be so against AI, then you'll get dropped. It's as simple as that. So, embrace it, use it, work out how you can make it work for your business or for your clients, and just go into it, lean into it, basically. Right, let's go to your questions. As always, lots of familiar faces. Hi, guys. Thank you for jumping on. So please, fill the. We've got half an hour now, so fill that chat window with questions, please, guys. Let's see what we've got. Who we got here? Rob. Wasn't there an AI editing tool that you mentioned once? I had to film straight to camera video and left it rolling, so lots of footage to sort through. Yeah, so you might have missed this, Rob, but I did mention it earlier. It's Gling AI. Again, not affiliated with them at all. Unless I've not used it for a little while because, like I say, I do have my editing done by someone else now for Solo Club, so I don't really have a need for it at the moment. So I'm not sure if the pricing has changed. But when I was using it, they had a very smart way of either you purchasing it, or as long as you mentioned Gling in the description of your video and you basically gave the URL for that video or put that into Gling, you get a free credit each time. So as long as you kept using it, you could use it for free. I don't know if that's still the case. If it's not, then apologies. But Yeah, it was Gling AI, and it's so good. Really, really reliable in terms of the way it worked. And I love the fact that you can go back and put things in that it's taken out, and you can, if it's missed something, which does happen, you can take it out manually and do all that sort of stuff. It saves so much time because for anyone, like Rob's kind of illustrated here, that you do anyone who's done this A-roll shooting, you'll know that you end up with a lot of stuff that you need to cut out. Most of my Mark Ellis Reviews shoots, as in the A-roll shoot, can be anywhere between 30, 40, 50, sometimes an hour long. Incredibly long, a lot of footage basically to sift through and get down to 8 to 10 minutes. So if you can use a tool like Gling to cut out that manual work, it's definitely worth doing. Jakob says that this chat GPT assistance is not fun. What do you mean by that, Jakob? I'd love to know what you mean by that. I think it's fun. I think it's great. But yeah, to expand on it, please. Michael, hello, Michael. Avid listener of the podcast, but would definitely tune in for the video podcast. So this is 8 or 16. So yeah, it is going onto YouTube very soon with a special episode. Actually, I won't say any more, but there's a very special, unique episode, which is going to be worth keeping an eye out for, definitely. Gary's looking forward to the new channel with Rob. So you've used Autopod, assuming it is the one that you'll be using, and it has been brilliant. It's actually exciting watching it cut it all up. I'm not sure what it's called actually, Gary, because like I said, I don't use a Premiere, but I have seen those videos that came out a little while ago when people first discovered this. Is it a plugin? I'm guessing is it built into Premiere, or this is how much I know about Premiere, or is it a plugin that you have to add? I don't know. From the sounds of it, it is, but yeah, I remember watching those videos where they did a screen recording of Premiere, basically automatically going through an hour-long podcast episode and putting all the cuts in and changing the angles and just watching it like that. Like I used to spend hours doing this. Gling is a little bit like that, actually. A lot of AI is like that, where you type something in or you press a button and you just watch it do something that you used to invest so much time in. It can be a bit frightening, but equally it's just amazing, and it can be inspiring if you look at it in the right way, I think. Johan says, it's Friday afternoon when YouTube tells you Mark's live. It's that regular, I suppose, isn't it? I don't want to be the kind of the signal that it's Friday afternoon, because surely a beer should be that, or I don't know, spending time with your family. But that's very, very kind of you to say, Johan. And also, you mentioned that Opus Clips is good for shorts. I think I tried this ages ago, and we have one of my team members has used it. This is when you correct me if I'm wrong, but it's when you take or you basically give it a YouTube URL of a regular, widescreen YouTube video, and it reframes it, it chops it up, and it gives you, I think, different shorts, 4 or 5 different versions of that video ready for short form, which again is just mind-boggling and saves you a lot of time. Rob, this is a really good question. Would you still call your channel Mark Ellis Reviews if you started today? I've thought a lot about this because I don't know if I would, because in theory it should just be called Mark Ellis. I think if you look at most channels, no matter what niche they're in, generally speaking, it's just their name. Mine isn't that. It's Mark Ellis Reviews. The reason I called it that, I mean, a very quick story. The reason it's called Mark Ellis Reviews isn't down to me at all, funny enough. I employed the services of a designer who designed the M and all the branding that you see around Mark Ellis Reviews. He did that for me, and I said to him, "Look, have you got any thoughts on the name of this channel? Because I'm not sure what to call it." And he said, "Mark Ellis Reviews. If you're reviewing stuff, there you go." And I thought that makes perfect sense. And that's what it's been called ever since. I've not changed it. I won't change it now. It's the brand. I think going back, I'd love to be able to go back and change it just to Mark Ellis. It would make things a little bit simpler in terms of when I do something that isn't a review. 'Cause I do stuff on the channel that isn't a review at all. There's opinion pieces and all sorts. It would just be a bit cleaner. It's not the end of the world, though. It's not. It hasn't really. I don't think it's affected the performance or the growth of the business. Possibly the opposite. Actually, maybe it's helped. Who knows? But yeah, if you look at most YouTube channels, they're just people's names. But I wouldn't get hung up on the name of a channel. I spent a long time in marketing myself, and I could never believe how much time was wasted, partly on my behalf as well. I was just as guilty as anyone else, really. I couldn't believe how much time was wasted trying to come up with names of products, names of businesses, logos. It never really matters because whatever you choose just becomes the thing that it is. People don't analyze it as much as you do choosing it. So, but I do. This is a great question, Robert. I do occasionally still think about that at the moment. Dell 1032, regular. I think long-term viewer of the reviews channel as well. I think. Um, Do you read off a script or is it off the top of your head in your main videos? My videos are off the top of my head, and sometimes an 8-minute video can take 90 minutes to film. Just what I just said, basically. It's yeah, you can end up with a lot of footage to sift through. I read off the only part of Mark Ellis reviews videos that are scripted. There's two parts really. One of them is the hook at the start, so that 2-3 second bit where I walk up to the camera and say something. That's generally scripted because it's the most important part of the video. The only other bit that is scripted to a degree is the anything that involves specs, but things where I have to get the numbers right and I have to. Well, then there might be a certain brand terminology or brand guidelines that you have to say something in a particular way. So it might be what's it? Well, I'm trying to think what the word is. A brand. Tagline, whatever, strapline, etc. That's the word I was looking for. Those have to be scripted to get them right. But everything else is just me riffing off these bullet points, really, and it's not easy. It might maybe it sounds easy. I don't know, but it's not. Sometimes it flows fantastically. Sometimes it really doesn't flow. And I have gone through lots of periods. I am at the moment, struggling with A-roll, really struggling with getting things out and worrying about how the performance is coming across, all that sort of stuff. It's much harder than you think. It's much harder than I ever thought it would be. It's still my least favorite part of the process, A-roll. It really is, but it always comes together in the edit, and always. I don't think I've ever gone back to an A-roll shoot in Final Cut Pro and thought this is terrible. I've never redone it ever. It's always better than I thought it was. It's very much up here. It's a real mental struggle at times. If anyone else has this issue, then I'd love to know. But I think most YouTubers do. Even big YouTubers that you're not aware of, from what I hear. Jakob, I also play with ChatGPT, and if you just follow what it tells you, you can grow your YouTube like a rocket ship. I think you have done this, Jakob. I think Jakob's built quite a big following recently, of about 5,000 subs in quite a short amount of time using some AI stuff. So yeah, if anyone wants to quiz him on that, go for it. Robert, definitely agree about using AI for inspiration for title generation, content layout, and rewording content in a more easily understandable format. Yeah, you summed it up perfectly there, Robert. It just does this stuff better. Well, not better than a human, but it does it quicker than a human. And if we can save time doing stuff, do it. Particularly in this industry where there's so many different components of a video. When you watch a YouTube video, you're seeing the end result, but if you've ever done it yourself, you'll know how many individual things go into making that video to making a good video that has a chance of performing well. There's a lot of stuff, and if you can just reduce the time, if you can take 10% off the time of creating a YouTube video, you've saved a lot of time there. If you can reduce it by 50%, even better. I think as AI develops, we'll get to the stage where you can reduce it by 90%, and the video will still be you. It'll still be you on the camera talking, and you'll still build the audience because of that. But the time taken to make that video will just virtually disappear due to this incredibly powerful AI and machine learning stuff that's going on. How am I dealing with trolls? Are you just hiding their comments outright these days? I'm getting better at it. I mentioned this on Twitter recently because I went through a spate not 2 or 3 weeks ago of replying to too many trolls and getting into a few. I was going to say scrapes. That probably is about that. Scrapes within the comment sections with them. Just not very nice exchanges. And every time that happens, I regret it. I'm not like, being horrible. I'm not being nasty or anything. I'm just getting into a bit of a verbal tussle with them, and it's just not nice. I never finish those conversations and just think, yeah, that was the right thing to do. I always finish it by thinking I should have just ignored that person or hidden them. So I am desperately trying to remedy this by just ignoring them or clicking the incredibly satisfying hide user from channel. That if YouTube can be congratulated for anything, it's the decision to include that feature where you literally, if you don't like a comment someone's left and you don't want to see them ever again, you click on the three little dots next to the comment and you choose hide user from channel. It removes that comment in particular, but equally it removes them completely from the channel, and it doesn't tell them either, and it lets them carry on. They can carry on commenting, but these comments just disappear into a bin somewhere. It's the most satisfying thing ever. I'm using it more than ever. um, but I'm human, and as much as I would love to not feed the trolls and all that stuff, it's sometimes very difficult not to bite. Really difficult. When it's your business, when you've put an awful lot of work into content and this person has no idea how this stuff works, and they pick fault at something in a way that is just not very nice, or they say something which is unfair, or something which questions your credibility. My least favorite ones that I get are the people that say things like, video starts at 4, and they put a timestamp which is just after the sponsor read. No, the video doesn't start there. The video starts at 0000. So those people, I've just started hiding them basically because I'm going to do it. But I am human, because these people know how to get your goat up, which is a very weird phrase. That I don't know if anyone else uses it. Is that a British thing? Get your goat up, whatever it is. But they do. They know how to tweak your buttons and make you say something. So, and anyone who's been on this side of the fence will know what I'm talking about. It's not as easy as you might think to not feed the trolls, but I promise I'm getting better at it. And if I can offer any advice, it is just to ignore them, because most of the comments you get are lovely. Most 99.9% of the comments that I get are either constructive criticism or just lovely people saying thank you for the video. Here's a thumbs up. They're the ones to focus on. They really are. Rob, how are you feeling about posting on X and X in general? Still really like it. I'm a big fan of X. We don't say Twitter anymore, do we? I'm a massive fan of X. Putting aside who owns it and all that stuff, I can look past that, I'm afraid. I just love it as a platform. I think I've said this quite a bit on these live streams. I've built a little pool of people on there who I like, who I know, who I trust, who I find funny, who I've met in person quite often and consider friends. And it's just a little community that I've built up, a very controlled community, and it's a great outlet as well. It's a great thing for me to ask questions. I've learned so much from that platform, from other creators, and I've been able to. The troll thing is a good example, actually, where I had a particularly annoying exchange with the troll, and that's when I was thinking, I need to stop doing this, but how do I stop doing it? So I just went onto X and said, you know, fellow content creators, how do you deal with trolls? And immediately got back loads of lovely replies and responses and ideas and things, and that's what it's about. So I'm a big fan of it. I really am. What are the questions? Keep hitting me with questions, guys. We've still got another 15 minutes. Have I missed any questions on here? Let's have a look. Great to see all the regulars and some new faces as well, which is nice. That's always good. I don't think I've missed any, have I? Any other questions? If you're interested, I'm heading to a very busy week next week. So I'm traveling to Dubai on Monday for a press event. I can't mention who it is because it's all embargoed and stuff like that, but it will become evident who it is on Tuesday next week. Very much looking forward to that. It's literally a flying visit. I think we fly out on Monday afternoon from Heathrow in the UK, and we land, slightly annoyingly, in Dubai at 20 past midnight, I think, on the Tuesday. And then we get some stuff to do basically on the Wednesday, and we have a press event that evening. Then we fly back on the Wednesday. So it's very much like all these press events. It's like squeezed up, but it's I never complain about them because they're a privilege, and it's Dubai. I've never been, by the way. Can't wait for it. But yeah, that's my week. That's part of my week next week. Do you think asking viewers to subscribe results in real subscribers? I think every YouTuber asks for subs, but I don't know if it ends up in a conversion. I don't think every YouTuber asks for subs personally. I disagree with that. I think a lot of the YouTubers I watch don't mention it at all. I stopped mentioning it regularly quite a while ago, actually, probably 2 years ago. I think I was doing the same thing right at the start of the video. I'd say, if you haven't subscribed yet, please subscribe. Until I realized, I think I read it somewhere, that someone said, why on earth would a new viewer to a channel who's just spent 30 seconds watching your intro want to subscribe? You've got to earn that sub. You have to do something within that video to make them hit that subscribe button. Asking them to do it right at the start when they haven't experienced anything else you've done, it's a waste of time. So I stopped doing it, and it didn't have any impact on the sub growth, or I don't think it did. It's very hard to tie those mentions of subscribing to actual, real hard sub growth, because there's no way as far as I'm aware, there's no way of kind of working that metric out, and apart from doing it over a long period of time and seeing what the effect is. The only time I do it now is if it comes into conversation naturally, and normally towards the end of the video. So a good example of that would be where I'm reviewing something and there's a follow-up review, or there's something I'm gonna review in the next couple of weeks, which will link back to this one, and it would make sense that if you enjoyed this video, hit subscribe, hit the bell, and you won't miss that follow-up video in a couple of weeks. That's the most obvious place to do it, really. And occasionally, right at the end, I might just throw in, if you've enjoyed this, consider hitting subscribe. Mainly because at the end of the video, you've got the people who have been really interested. Or everyone who wasn't interested or has kind of got bored halfway through has gone. So the people that you're left with at the end of the video have watched the entire 10, 12 minutes or whatever. They're clearly engaged, and you've got more chance of converting more of them than you have at the start of the video. So I would just play around with it, but I wouldn't overthink it. That's the key thing. Personally, I have overthought that the whole subscribe thing, and I think it's since I stopped doing it, I haven't worried about it, if that makes sense. So I was worrying about it more when I was doing it, if that makes sense. But yeah, definitely don't put it, if you're going to do it, don't put it at the start of the video, because you're expecting way too much from the audience with that. Will you be packing a few more clothes in your carry-on this time after what happened to your luggage last time? Good memory there, Rob. Yeah, so anyone who doesn't know, I went to IFA in September. Was it September? Or whenever it was, earlier this year. And Lufthansa lost my luggage, basically, and I was without luggage for the entire trip. Didn't get it back until 2 weeks later, and it was horrendous. There's nothing. It's never happened to me before, but I've realised since that experience that there's nothing worse than losing all of your luggage when you go to a foreign country, because you have to go and buy everything again, and you just don't feel like yourself. You don't have your stuff. So well, firstly, there's no connecting flight for this one, so there's less chance of the luggage going missing. But regardless of that, I am just going to take carry on. I'm not going to risk it, Rob, because no, I don't want to have to go and buy pants again in Dubai. I want to be there and just enjoy the event and not worry about my luggage. So, lesson learned: if you can't trust these airlines. Oh, by the way, I haven't had any recompense from Lufthansa at all. Excuse me. We've put a claim in. Nothing's come back. We keep chasing them. They are utterly useless. If anyone from Lufthansa is watching this and can pull some strings, this won't be the case. But if you are, please help. We've emailed you 8,000 times. Nothing's happened. Thanks for your videos. Thank you for the very kind comment. I'm wondering about starting a YouTube channel about tech. Do you think it's generally a good idea? Yeah, I do. I think starting any channel is a good idea, no matter what what the niche is. I guess you're asking this because you might be concerned that, and correct me if I'm wrong, but you're probably concerned that there's too many tech YouTubers, and is it really worth diving into a niche which is seemingly saturated? But as I've always said, if a niche is saturated, if there's a lot of people doing it, it's for a good reason. And if you can find a lot of, sorry, my voice is going. If you can find a lot of YouTubers doing the same thing that you're thinking about doing, it's because there's enough of an audience for it. And if most of them have fairly decent sized channels, and there's so many tech channels, but there's so many tech channels with good sized audiences, it's a great sign, because there's enough eyeballs there for you to grab a share of yourself. So go for it. Absolutely go for it. And don't overthink it too much. Just get cracking, basically, and you'll find your voice. You'll find the things that you want to cover. You may be aware of that already, but yeah, it's a great idea. Get started. Don't hold back. Alan's enjoying my Lufthansa rant there. I won't mention them again. Persona 1600, who is a an old colleague of mine. We used to work together many, many years ago. I hope you're well, mate. Well, sometimes we had, didn't we? Uh, hi, Mark. Hope you're well. As somebody I'm sure keeps a keen eye on stats, have you ever noticed when YouTube verifies views, your watch hours decrease from what it previously reported? I've read that terribly, haven't I? Um, when YouTube verifies views, your watch hours decrease. I've never noticed that. Have you noticed that? Maybe that's something you've had. I'm trying to get my head around what that looks like in the stats. This is you wrote it badly. No, I've read it badly as well. I, I'm terrible with the stats. So one of the things that I'm getting Niall, who's my general manager, to do, and he's doing a very good job of already, is getting some proper stats together. So basically putting together um, uh, some form of reporting that we can look at every couple of weeks and just work out what's going on. And already it's been very, very useful, and it's forced me to take note of the stats as well. So this more so than I don't think you've written it badly at all. I think it's more a case of me not spending enough time on this stuff. I think with this kind of thing, here we go. Look. So basically, you had 1,750-ish watch hours yesterday on your sim racing channel, but today it says 1,688. They fluctuate all the time. Everything fluctuates. I think what this comes down to is not spending too much time looking at your stats too much. And it's rich me saying that when I spend all my time looking at, kind of goes back on what I was saying a moment ago, but in terms of just looking at those big numbers each day or every couple of hours, refreshing YouTube Studio, I'm terrible at doing that. But what it has taught me over the last few years is that the numbers fluctuate all the time, whether it be subs, watch hours, even to the point where if you've used YouTube Studio, you'll know what I'm talking about. If you look at the view count of your most recent videos on the home page of YouTube Studio versus the view count in the list of content that you have, it's always different. So your most recent video on the first thing that you see in YouTube Studio might say you've had 6,000 views. If you look at that piece of content in the content tab, it will say 3,000 views. And there's all sorts of weird reasons for that. But I think that the key thing with this is that I wouldn't overlook it. Sorry, I wouldn't overthink it. Because that number could go up again. It could decrease. There's also, again, we don't know what's going on behind the scenes with YouTube. There's so many things that kind of contribute to these metrics. It will, I think, like you said in your previous comment, YouTube has to verify a lot of this stuff. So they have to get rid of stats that relate to spam accounts and all that sort of stuff. I just wouldn't overthink it. I really wouldn't. Try and do what I'm trying to do at the moment, which is only diving into your stats every couple of days. Because once you've done that, you've had a couple of days for the stats to do something interesting. And it's very unlikely that after 2 days, everything will have gone down. Generally speaking, as long as you're creating regular content and it's hitting the right people, your numbers will keep going up, and the fewer the fewer amount of times that you check YouTube Studio, the less likely you are to see those fluctuations. If that makes sense, I think that makes sense. Well, there you go. Check it once, like you say here. Check it once a month. If you can check it once a month, you're a better person than me because I can't do that. But that is probably the gold standard because you get a much better view of how your channel's growing, and it will be growing. Trust me. How long do you have to hook a user to keep watching your video? Do you have to hook them in the first 15 seconds, the first 30, or the first 45? I've got some bad news for you. All three of those numbers are way too high. You don't get 15 seconds. You definitely don't get 45 seconds. You have 2 or 3 seconds to hook people. You don't. That isn't the case for people who have found you previously and who, subscribed and enjoy your videos. You've got them, generally speaking. You have them for a bit longer. You may have a few minutes with those guys, but for people who are brand new to your channel, you've got seconds. People's attention span is so short these days. We're all the same. I think our attention spans have been destroyed by short form content, which is a shame, but we can't do anything about it. We talk about a long form video these days being 8 minutes. 8 minutes of someone's time doesn't sound like very much at all, does it? But it really is in this game. You've got a couple of seconds basically to really hook them in, and whether that be what you say or what you show, Basically, you can't get away with an establishing shot. So you can't get away with a drone shot of something, or I don't know, you cycling past on the bike that you're reviewing. That doesn't work. You've got to come up to the camera straight away and say, I've never experienced a pair of earbuds like this. Do that, you've got them. If you kind of walk in slowly, open the case, get them, you've lost them. They've gone. They've disappeared. They're watching someone else's channel. Sorry to be the bearer of bad news. The good thing with this is that it does mean that it really focuses your attention on those first few seconds of the video. Again, if I can offer any advice for that, is to really spend time on that first 2 or 3 seconds where you're saying something or showing something. It's the one part of the video that I reshoot again and again more often than anything else. So once I've got into the intro, the proper intro, and the value and the call to action at the end, those sections I very rarely reshoot. The intro, sorry, the hook at the start, I do it 2 or 3 times every time. I've been known to do it 10, 11 times just to make sure I'm really happy with it, or shoot different versions of it, and then when I get it into the edit suite, work out which one is best. It's because if you didn't spend that time on the hook, the rest of the time you've spent on the rest of the video could be wasted because the hook may not be good enough. Same thing with the title and the thumbnail. Yeah, I hope that helps. Oh, Rob, I hope your cat's okay. It's normally me heading to the vet with my dog, but yeah, good luck at the vets. Right, we've got 4 minutes. So, any last questions, guys? Not a euphemism. It's Friday. Let's have a look. Have I missed any questions here? Don't think I have. Just another reminder while I'm waiting for any last questions to come in that the Discord server is free. The link is down below if you want to check out the little community that we're building in there. And the Creator Academy is ready for signups. It's sitting there waiting for people to become members of. If you have done that already, thank you very much. Can't wait to meet you in January and February and beyond. And yeah, it's me sharing everything about this business, how I've built it. So if you want to follow in my footsteps, go check it out. I think we're done, guys. Thank you so much for joining me on the live stream as always. I love these. It's a lovely way to finish the week for me. I hope it is for you if you join, regulars that join every week. But I do really enjoy having this chat. It's very different to what I do for the rest of the week, which is normally me. A lot of what I do is writing emails, writing blog posts, and occasionally filming myself and editing myself. But this is totally different to that, and it's a lovely break from the kind of the grind of being the wonderful grind of being a content creator. So yeah, thanks guys, and it will be the same time next week because I will be back from my travels next Friday, and we're getting near Christmas, aren't we? So maybe I'll have to wear some kind of Christmas jumper within the next 2 weeks, possibly. Thank you for joining me now. If you're joining me in the future, thank you. And yeah, I will catch you next week. Thank you very much. Have a lovely weekend. And yeah, enjoy creating content as always. What a terrible way to sign this off. Anyway, goodbye. I'm going to stop talking, stop rambling. Goodbye.